Hello. Hello. We are going to light this candle to welcome you and greet you. And thank you for joining us, me, myself, and myself, here on the ASMR-Etiquette experiment. Etiquette. We're going to review a book that came out in 1922 originally. It was called Etiquette in Society. Etiquette in Society. In books, in politics, and at home. Etiquette in society, in books. I'm sorry, not books. I'm making that up. In business, but it's in a book. Etiquette in society, in business, in politics, and in the home. So, let me get that correct. Let's make sure. It was written by a lady named Emily Post. I don't know if you may know her or not. She was quite famous and still is. Boy, listen to that thing go gangbusters. I don't know, maybe too loud. We'll see if it settles down. Oh, simmer down, Nancy. Simmer down, Nancy. But let's listen to it for a second. That's nice. I got this the other day on clearance at CVS. Thank you very much, CVS. For 75% off, no less. It is a Nature's Wick candle by Woodwick. These are expensive, so I never buy them. Coconut saffron. Coconut saffron. Coconut saffron. And it smells very nice. So, we'll see. Set back here, maybe it won't be so obtrusive. Okay. Okay, back to Emily. Emily Post. She was born in the late 1870s, and she died in 1960 and lived in New York at the time. Emily Post was known and is known as famous for her contributions in print, mostly books about etiquette. Etiquette is what? Well, I don't know. I didn't look it up. But this is her book. This is one of the later print editions. But it originally was published, like I said, in 1922 by Miss Emily Post. Quite a large book. She was not the only one writing books about behavior and social appropriate niceties, how to act, how to be, how to present yourself, how to walk, words to use, not to use, gestures to make and not to make. Basically how to live in evolved kind of way of life. Status is everything back then. And of course, this is for white people back then, unfortunately. However, everyone had a great deal of class and etiquette in all their own classes and races and everything else, regardless of how much money they had and what wealthy area they were raised in, or whether they were. But, we're speaking of a certain time period, so we have to be that mindful and just know that the examples that are here in this book, as well as, in history books and photography and all of that, are by and large folks who are of Caucasian descent. And it's much more difficult in the 1800s and early 1900s to locate examples of folks of color that represent things like the rising class of society, so to speak, because it was hard to find. It didn't exist in most places in the United States anyway. Bummer. We're still working on it. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, so Emily, she was a pretty tall lady. Grew up in, I think, was it New Hampshire? And married parents who were both very wealthy people, and she was, of course, by default very wealthy. She also married someone very wealthy. So, that said, let's see, this book I picked up, actually, it's just FYI. I was kind of happy. I picked this up at a monthly rummage sale, kind of the warehouse sale that there is here in my town. And everything in there was pretty darn cheap. All books were $1 each, and they come in these huge bins that you have to kind of hang over the side of it and fish around. I pulled a muscle in my back trying to fish around for books that day, and one of them I got was this book by Emily Post, and I was really excited because I've not read it, never owned it, but I've heard so much about it and just thought, well, this would be a really cool book to have and to read and to see what kinds of rules and suggestions and recommendations Ms. Post made for us back then, back in 1922. And she did make some revisions up and through, I believe, the 1950s. So some slight changes, but for the most part, it's the way it was. She had competition. There were other people who were writing these books, other women, and who were developing finishing schools and other things to generate money and prestige and grow this obsession, basically, with being fancy pants, fancy pants. There's probably a book by that person too somewhere. Fancy Pants, Etiquette by Fancy Pants. But I think Emily's was more well known. So for $1 we got this book, which is in semi-poor shape. The spine is beat to hell. Kind of came crumbling apart when I pulled it out of the box. If it's not too much trouble, I feel the crackling. The candle's gonna make me mad in terms of it's gonna take away from this sound. Not so much my voice, but just the book sounds. If you don't mind, I'm gonna snuff it out. Okay. forest fire kind of thing going on there. Okay, friend. Thank you for joining us. That was nice. Now, simmer down. Shh. Be quiet. You've been enough noise tonight. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Shh. Go to bed now. Stop talking in your sleep. Good night, 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 night. You're doing fine. Go to sleep. That's better. You know, I didn't think to do a trial run of anything. I never do. So, but yeah. Let's tap on this Etiquette book by Emily Post. There's Miss Emily. See, its paper is coming off here. Like it's completely coming off. So, I'm going to try to repair it a little bit. Something. So don't lose the whole back. Surprisingly though, in spite of that, the spine is relatively solid. It's not cracked apart like they usually are. It is a little bit here. It's starting to come apart. The middle. Very, very common thing to happen. This page would fall out soon. And we're not here to talk about book restoration, but this is something to think about. So, this book contains an index, and in the back you can look up all kinds of things that you might think of for etiquette, like the use of blowing a horn in the car, courtesy to passengers and pedestrians. There's a section on women drivers, on mourning with and without wearing black, using the term pardon me, what clothes to wear at weddings. Let's see. The use of the word Monsignor. Unacceptable forms of, appears to be titles. Household management, such as housekeeper, parlor maid, private secretary, and valet. Jewelry, what type of jewelry you wear for brides and Jewish weddings. Linens, kitchen linen amounts needed. Kitchen maids, clothing that's appropriate. Oh my goodness. Lazy Susans, even Lazy Susans. Gifts for the best man, bride and groom. Use of saying goodbye. Golf etiquette. Being gracious etiquette. receiving grapes, tipping, hats, formal dinners, clearing the table, use of the word excellency, entertaining guests, correspondence. There's a whole bunch of these letters, suggestions on how to write and communicate with people in writing, and what you should say and how to say it. Goes all the way down to how to date the letter, how to properly fold it, the importance of neat letters, and some examples of things like letters of congratulation, introduction, recommendation, letters of thanks, use of sealing wax. Sealing wax, S-E-A-L-I-N-G, wax, S-E-A-L, like the seal, like the animal. Sealing wax. It's used with the wax on its shaped and usually in a stick or like little beads, and you melt it in a spoon or some kind of container. And once it's liquefied, you pour it onto the paper that you are sending or want to seal. And you take a brass, or historically brass, metal stamp with some kind of insignia in it, carved into the end, and you press it into the hot wax and hold it there until it cools enough, and you can pull it out, and what is left behind is a lovely imprint of the wax seal. People often use those at the time with their family's name, initials, and things like that, and so on. And now we use them for crafts and silly wedding invitations sometimes, things like that. They're fun. Yeah, so I think that we could go through this for hours and hours and hours, but I just thought today we'd just look at a couple highlights to see what all we might find interesting. I was kind of interested in this is kind of good. This section, so we kind of find stuff right away. This is manners for motorists. Manners for motorists. Well, most of us are drivers. Not everybody, but I can imagine you guys are all most likely of driving age. Not everybody, again, but will be if you're not. So, chapter 50, manners for motorists. It says, social rating by car value. How often have we noticed, perhaps with secret wonder, that John Citizen, who is courteous in all his daily contacts with people, becomes suddenly transformed into a bad-mannered autocrat when driving his car, particularly his new car? Is it because, by virtue of the highly reputable make of his car and its horsepower, that he feels that he has become automatically the equal of every owner of a similar car, and the superior of the owners of all cars of less importance? One wonders, is this importance, according to the car, perhaps the reason why so often the man in the moderate circumstances will stint himself in every way to buy a car that is actually beyond his means, thus to gratify his desire to go one better than his neighbor? Yes, the answer is yes, he would, and they do so very often. My car is almost 25 years old. Not to say that I'm not snubbing anybody that has a really expensive car, because boy, if you want to give me one, I'll take it. But I'm saying that's, that's what I have, and it's what I could afford. And, I just have to envy sometimes people driving around in these really nice cars, and I go, oh, I kind of wish I was driving one of those cars, but my car is fine, and it's nice, it's warm in the winter most of the time. Well, if you're on my side, it is. The passenger side doesn't really is another effect that ownership of a high-class car produces upon John Citizen. It makes him believe that his rating as a great driver is above question. Really great drivers do exist, and very good ones are not uncommon. And moreover, both of these are fully aware of their own expertness. But this chapter is certainly not for either of these, but for the tens of thousands who, in ever-increasing numbers, swarm out upon the roads to have their lives saved time and again, though they don't know it, by the experts who step in between the Grim Reaper and the bad driver. And if we seriously think of the power in all these machines running loose upon our highways and realize that no examination in driving courtesy is required of one applying for a license, the wonder is not that there are accidents, but that there are so few. Well, these are wise words, Miss Post, I will say. Bad manners lead to accidents. This is her theory. And I mean, come on now. That's not our stretch, really. Of course, the type of driver who ought to be given a nice long time to think it over in jail is the one who, when the road is crowded, pulls out of a solid line of cars to steal his way forward. Finding himself in sudden danger of a head-on collision, he makes a frantic effort to push his way back into the line he's left, possibly forcing someone off the side of the road, or at least marring fenders. We're on page 589. That's a lot of pages. Or perhaps the newspapers carry one more story of a fatal motor crash caused by the bad manners of a driver who shoves to get ahead or tries to beat the lights or crowds another off the road, never considering anybody's rights but his own. Yeah, there's some great stuff there. She goes on to describe many, many examples of ways of being a poor driver and what would make you a better driver. We'll get to this one here section. Certain bad manners of women drivers. This is for those ladies out there who are driving. There are, of course, thousands of women drivers who are on every count first class, but there are certain others who deserve all the criticism that can be given them. That's a lot. Among the worst of these should be put the window shopper. She who crawls along a crowded thoroughfare with her gaze fastened upon the store windows. A not unfamiliar sight in the smallest towns are the stop-to talkers who park side by side and hold long conversations while other cars wait or maneuver their way past the blockade as best they can. There is no reason why Sissy Chatter may not talk with Penny Prattle as long as she chooses, but one of them must draw over close to the curb and wait. The other must park her car in a proper place and then come back to the first car and either stand on the sidewalk or get into the car. Obviously. There you have it. Manners of pedestrians. So I guess we'll just cover the walkers too. When anyone is run over by an automobile, the driver's guilt is invariably taken for granted. Often the blame belongs to him, but often again it does not. In other words, motor manners are every bit as important to those who want to escape being injured as for those who want to avoid injuring others. First rules for pedestrians include, don't cross in front of the green light. Don't cross street in the middle of block. These are truncated sentences to do. Don't dart forward after hiding behind a parked car and imagine that an oncoming driver whom you yourself could not see could know by means of clairvoyance that you were there. That's along number 3. Don't, when the lights change while you are in the middle of a street, turn and run back to your side that you started from. If you keep on going exactly as you were, drivers will automatically wait and give you time to pass in front of their cars. But not one of those you have already passed can possibly be prepared to have you about face and suddenly dash back again in front of his wheels. In other words, don't be a wishy-washy pedestrian. Get over it and walk across that street. Do not change your mind or you're going to get creamed. Love, Emily. Okay. And the other is, apparently, that, I don't know if this is still true, that when you walk on a country road, it is a universal and very natural habit to walk on the right side of a road. But this habit, acquired from the correctness of disposition on the sidewalk, is a not infrequent cause of accidents as well as annoying delays to motor drivers. A pedestrian on the right side cannot see a car overtaking him. If another car is coming from the other direction, the pedestrian unfortunately stays on his right half of the road directly in the path of the unseen or unheard overtaking car. Pedestrians should walk on the left-hand side of the road. Well, I've learned something today from Miss Emily Post. So that's nice, huh? A little bit of that. Let's find something else here. And I think I'm gonna have to find some good book tape, paper tape. This has an introduction. Let's see. There is a picture. It says underneath, it's a picture of a living room with sofa and chair in front of a fireplace, nicely decorated, matching curtains, fresh flowers, and 2 end tables. Lovely. It says the personality of a house is indefinable, but there never lived a hostess of cultivation and charm whose home, whether a palace or a bungalow, did not reflect the quality of inviting comfort. And I think that's true. And here's the first page, the title page, what it looks like. Just want to drop it there. Etiquette, the Blue Book of Social Usage by Emily Post. Very nice. Illustrated with photographs and facsimiles of social forms. This is published by Funk and Wagnall's Company in New York. Very famous encyclopedia publisher. This is the 78th printing, 78th printing in 1952. And it's got quite the table of contents regarding the true meaning of etiquette, introductions, use of names, conversation, pronunciation, balls and dances, teas and other parties, visiting cards and their uses. A visiting card was something that if you wanted to see someone, a friend or a romantic interest or a neighbor, whatever, just for a formal visit, you presented first, before you ever show up for that visit, a card. And the card was your, kind of like a business card. And you would show up at the door and you would say, like somebody would answer the door and you'd say, hello, I'm Betty. Betty the neighbor. And I'm here to see Miss Virginia Slim. Here's my card. It says Betty neighbor. La la la. You know. Road 62 in whatever town. Hacksparrow. Maybe, yeah. I mean, I don't know. But anyways, so then the person takes a card, says, "Thank you very much, madam. Will you please stay here while I go fetch the missus," or whatever. Then they go get her and say, "Virginia Slim, Mrs. Betty Watson Bucket is out there to see you." The neighbor lady, basically. And she's like, "Oh my, okay, we'll get something or other." And they go make a big stink, and they go get some tea and big run to the well and start, milking some cows and getting ready. Because Betty's coming in. But she had to have that card so that there was proof that we know who she is. These cards were important. They were collected, and sometimes they were shown off as little status symbols, like, "See how many people came to visit me? Ha ha. Did they come see you? I don't think so. Your card box looks kind of low." Yeah, so that's a visiting card. Preparing for your wedding. Bride, modern man and girl engagements. All the dining you can muster. We have a chapter on maintaining your position in the community. Professional positions in residence, when to use flat silver. Formal dinners, luncheons, breakfasts, and suppers. Simple party giving. American neighborhood customs. Well, let's check that out. Country house and hospitality. How to write an address to important personages. Table manners. Clubs and club etiquette. Manners of butters. We were there. What we contribute to the beauty of living. And then the index itself. So that's nice. It's a very wide-ranging content thing, I think. The true meaning of etiquette. The point to be made is that rules of etiquette have not been contrived in order to make those who know them seem important, and to make those who happen not to know them seem miserably chagrined. Actually, the so-called rules are nothing but the findings of long experience handed down for reasons of practical use. This does not mean that the principles of good taste or of beauty or of consideration for the rights and or feelings of others can be discarded. Thank you, Emily. Ever, she says, and she emphatically says this with a M dash and an ever exclamation point. So she means that, as a matter of fact, comma, good taste is necessarily helpful. It must be the suitable thing, the comfortable thing, the useful thing for the occasion, the place, and the time, or it is not in good taste. In the same way that the code of ethics, for generations known as the code of a gentleman, is an immutable law of etiquette. Too many of us are likely to assume a rich man a gentleman. No qualification could be further from the truth, since the quality of a gentleman is necessarily measured by what he is and never by what he has. We've all heard the term, quote, nature's nobleman, unquote, meaning a man of innately beautiful character who, never having even heard of the code, follows it by instinct. In other words, the code of a thoroughbred, whether it be applied to a man or a woman, or to a half-grown child, is the code of instinctive decency or ethical integrity, self-respect, and loyalty. Decency means not merely propriety of speech and conduct, but honesty and trustworthiness in every obligation. Integrity includes not only honesty, but a delicacy of motive and of fairness in judging the motives of others. Self-respect, among many other things, means refusal to accept obligations that one is unwilling to return. This word, quote, unwilling, unquote, is of importance, since there is no more contemptible person than one who takes all he can get and leaves as little as he can. Loyalty means faithfulness, not only to friends, but to principles. Etiquette, if it is to be of more than trifling use, must go far beyond the mere mechanical rules of procedure or the equally automatic precepts of conventional behavior. Actually, etiquette is most deeply concerned with every phase of ethical impulse or judgment, and with every choice or expression of taste, since what one is of far greater importance than what one appears to be. A knowledge of etiquette is, of course, essential to one's decent behavior, just as clothing is essential to one's decent appearance, and precisely as one wears the latter without being self-conscious of having on shoes and perhaps gloves, one who has good manners is equally unself-conscious in the observance of etiquette, the precepts of which must be so thoroughly ingrained that their observance is a matter of instinct rather than conscious obedience. Wow, that's kind of a handful. I mean, that's a lot to kind of ponder, really. And I love it in its like altruistic kind of feel, but you read that and think, yeah, okay, sure, that's ideal. Like, that's ideal. That's what I think most of us would like to see. We're all just nice all the time. We just know by instinct how not to be assholes. And yet so many assholes are out there. Sometimes we act like one, and then we're sorry later. So that's pretty great stuff. And I would love to kind of go into this with more detail and specifics on certain sections. Like, we can do a show or do a video on, here's parenting and chaperones. What balls are like. I'd like to read about that too, because I, of course, haven't been to a ball. The closest thing would probably be a wedding on my own. Here's how to make an invitation. They're very nice. Here's examples of what you might have it look like if you're writing an invitation. This is the lettering and the layout you might have. Little crest emblem at the top. Miss Pauline Towns, presence at the marriage of their daughter, Mary Catherine and Mr. James Smartlington. Correct names and titles. Will you dine and go to the play? Going down the aisle of a theater. If a gentleman offers you his arm, don't smack it away. That's not what they want you to do. They're looking to try it. They're not taking your purse, I don't think. They just want you to latch on nicely. But don't drag them down. Don't hang on them. It gets heavy after a while, ladies. Oh. So just kind of a light, just a little wrap and, a little pat. But don't start rubbing like intensely nervous finger. You just start grinding a hole through their forearm. You just gotta take it easy. I'm high anxiety, so I could see myself suddenly creating some kind of rug burn on the poor guy's arm, because I'd be like, oh, I'm doing fine, how are you? And I'm rubbing his hand, squeezing the shit out of it. I'm just saying it could happen. I'm a nervous ninny. I never shut up when I first am, meeting someone, or so I'm like, Miss Sparkly at the party, because that nervousness, it translates for me into nervous, kind of endless social engagement. So I'm very much engaged, and I'm listening, I'm talking, responding, and smiling, and very, But meanwhile, on the inside, I'm just exuding tons of this energy, which comes from a person who's generally a pretty introverted person, me. So that is hard, and so by the time when I do that, I'll just be exhausted, or I will overstimulate my brain and myself to the point where I'll feel almost like agitated or upset, like it's almost this point where you've been so entertaining that you feel a stress response, and then that quickly leads to a desire to flee the scene and become alone, in which case then you feel let down, lonely, and start bawling. I'm fun at parties though, I'll tell you. It's just afterwards. Anyway. Those are some personality quirks, I'm telling you. There's a reason I'm still single. Again, 2 times. 2 marrieds. And now perma single. Probably. I don't know. That's a whole other video. Oh my god. Anywho, Emily Post. We'll just wrap up here. And we'll discuss these things at a later date and time. I think this is just fun. I got some other books too at the dollar deal when I was hanging in the bucket. And one of them I got was, oh my gosh, it's the Queen. Oh, I'm blank. Big Queen, fancy Queen. Queen Elizabeth. Great Queen. And it's a lovely book that I have. I mean, it's very pretty. The cover is amazing. I think it's like 1902 or something like that. It was a super cool book. I'm excited to look at it. I can show that to you as well. I got a copy of Moby Dick. Very, very old copy, which I have not read since high school. Nor do I really want to, but I thought it was neat to have a copy. I got an atlas, a super cool atlas we should look at. It's a big one, and it sounds silly, but it was published by Reader's Digest, believe it or not. And it is just, it's gorgeous. I think it was published in 1960, I think it said. Just beautiful, beautiful maps of every part of the world as it was then. So neat. I was really, really excited about that. $1. And then the final score I got book-wise anyway is a set of encyclopedias. Yep, I know. Don't get jealous. I mean, I know everyone's out there just climbing the walls for these sets of encyclopedias. I know, they weigh 1,000 pounds. They're incredibly long, enormous, hard to store, weigh tons. And still, I seem to want to get a hold of many sets. I have multiple sets already, so I think I got rid of one. I did give up one or two sets, but I have a set of pictured knowledge, which is a 1920s, I think. It's a book or encyclopedia book set, and that's pretty old, black and white. I don't know. It's okay, but it's neat, and it's a really big set. This set is called, actually it's also kind of like pictured knowledge, but it's called, I think, the Illustrated Encyclopedia? The Picture Encyclopedia. Oh, I can't remember now, dang it. But anyway, they had like 3 or 4 different sets there that day, and I swear I was like about to get 2 sets. I was gonna take home 2 sets of encyclopedias. That's nutso. I mean, I already felt really bad taking home 1 set because I could just hear my mother's voice going, Amy Joe. I mean, she'd just be so mad, like, Amy, stop dragging things home like that. Well, but they're really nice. I got the whole set from A to Z. There's even a volume at the very end. It's called the Study Guide. So you can read whatever you want in the encyclopedias, and then there's like little handy quizzes and things you can give if you're a teacher, I guess, to students and have them answer those. I was looking through that study guide. Some of that stuff was really hard. Great set. So I would love to bring that and show it to you, some of it or parts of it. Yeah. I have another small set of encyclopedias, only like 6 volumes. It's called The Mother's Encyclopedia. And it's 6 books, maybe written, I think, in the early 1900s, all about and for young and new mothers, being mom, babies, and advice for young mothers. It's really interesting stuff to read, so that we should probably take a gander sometime. I hope that you all liked to hear a little bit of Emily's book called Etiquette. I would like to know what you think of it, and if you would like to hear more parts of this book and go into more depth, we could do some flashcards. We could, there's all kinds of creative things that could happen. So if you do enjoy hearing about some of these things, let me know in the comments. If you have a certain topic or area in the etiquette book that you think would be interesting or you'd like to hear read out loud, please say so. You can say generally or specifically. And that way I'll kind of have an idea if this is something that I should bring back to the channel again for you. Yeah. I just remembered I have another book somewhat like this book, Emily's, but it's called like social customs and something great. I don't remember, but it's older than this. I think it's probably around very late 1800s, early 1900s, and pretty great looking book too. It has some really strange customs and rules, that you would not hear about at all today, much less even in Emily's book. So yeah, that's what I got. Etiquette. Thank you guys for joining me today and for staying if you're here still and enjoying this video with me. I hope you found it relaxing and gave you some tingles as you heard the book sound, tapping paper and reading and such. I had fun bringing it to you. So thank you. Please hit like and subscribe if you'd like. And I will be back again soon. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.